Okay, we're live. Good evening. Let us begin by acknowledging that we are gathered today in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral, present, and future territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Today, we gather with the intent followed by the living peace and friendship treaties, with respect, cooperation, and coexistence. We are all treaty people. I call this meeting of Town Council to order. It is April 27th, 2026. Please note, this is a council meeting that normally would have taken place on Thursday, but we have people going to an SFM, and so we thought rather than postpone or delay, we would switch it up and have the meeting this evening. So welcome to all of you who are watching and our guests in the chamber, in the gallery. So,
and we have regrets from Councillor McCarron.
Yes, we do have regrets from Councillor McCarron. We will move on to approval or any additions to the agenda. Councillor Feeney, did you want to add
Mayor, I'm hoping you can add a brief item in the closed session under.
Not sure if it's
We'd
personnel.
just like to talk about the committee appointments.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Section.
this is a very new thing. If it was just confirmed that there was grounds for, but then it's only under the code of conduct. I'm just trying to recall the proper grounds for for council members. And did they say that it could now be addressed as personnel?
It's a new section.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Wait, sorry.
What is that called? That's called-
Who wonders. It has, I'm sure, because this is my recollection of it, it approved that committee members and council appointments can be discussed in closed session. There was previously some legal
Yes.
ambiguity about it,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure if it would just be described as personnel or not. So.
Well, Mayor, if you indulge me, just a brief point on that topic.
Yes.
In the closed session.
Yes,
Thank you.
we do that.
Okay, so let's describe it as personnel and then
Mhm.
that is the law.
Okay. So there are no other items, so can we
Yeah.
have
I
a?
was gonna add or announce the Epilepsy Association.
Well, that would come under the announcements by counselors, and
Okay, got it.
that's a session that we have to do anyway.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, so can someone make it approve the agenda as amended? Counselor Pufferman? Second by Counselor Carver, thank you. All those in favor signify aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. We will go to the acceptance of the minutes. I'll start with the first one, 2.1, special council meeting, April 10th, 2026. Any errors, omissions, additions? Being none? Can I do these all together as one, if with no approvals, or should each one be a
I mean,
separate motion?
If there's no approvals, they do go individually, but you don't need a motion, so just ask for each one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so item 2.2, special council meeting, April 13th, 2026. Any errors, omissions, additions? Being none, I'll move on to 2.3, regular council meeting, April 14th, 2026. Any errors, omissions, additions? None. Item 2.4, special council meeting, April 17th, 2026. Any errors, omissions, additions? Being none, then I will accept these minutes as they were written and presented. We'll move on to announcements by council members. I'd like to start by doing a presentation. So it's a special day for two of our staff. One is here and one is not, but we'll do the one that is here because it's our CAO
Well, thank
is
you.
receiving an award this evening. And it is from the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators and the administrators of Nova Scotia as well. So, or is it just the federal?
This is just the federal one.
Okay, so it's 15 years of
Yeah.
service to municipalities, quite a feat.
Get closer.
We haven't caused.
Well, thank you very much. I can't believe 15 years has gone by.
Yeah,
I do still remember being in the back of the room when we were at this was the Scotia Administrators Conference.
yeah,
And they were saying, well, we're all CAOs, so how many people have 2 years till retirement, 5 years till retirement, 10, so it goes up to like 30, and it's like, anybody else? So, yeah, I'm still here. So it's been 15, so getting closer, I'm not the youngest one.
congratulations, and
Yeah.
it's a privilege to be able to give this to you, and we hope you'll hang it in your office. When you
Yeah.
Get back up in your office.
Thank you very much.
And I do want to also mention that Kim Boutlier, who is receiving our own, we do honor our long-term employees here at Town of Mahone Bay, and Kim Boutlier, who is in our finance department. She's also receiving, and the number of years are
15 as well.
15 as well. So you
15.
came at the same
good.
time.
Well, she's been 15 with the town. I've only been 8 years with the town. I don't earn this for nothing. I got another 7 years to go
Oh,
before I get that one.
so you
And
sort of,
hopefully Kim will still be here to see me get mine.
yeah, and you sort of have to look up to her, right?
Quite true, yeah. That's seniority around here.
Yes,
And I hope
exactly.
she may be watching. If she's not watching,
Yeah,
she'll be watching.
for Kim, if you were, congratulations. I was told not to do this. Anyway, everyone needs to be recognized for their long service and their dedication to their work, so, and we know you are, Kim, so, thanks. We'll make sure that this stays, here, and, it gets to your new office,
New
so.
space. so
Yes,
every time.
yes, we're playing musical offices right now downstairs, and, people are recreating spaces and working pods, so it's kind of nice. There'll be new wall hangings.
Yeah, so that's great to see that recognition for staff, and we've had that policy now for a little bit, so this is one of the first big milestones for anybody.
Yeah, this is the first one I've done anyway.
Great.
And then, we have announcements, so I think, Counselor Boone, you had something you wanted to
Yeah,
present?
absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. So the Epilepsy Association of the Maritimes are going to be running their Seize the Day Walk and Run event on June 6th at the Saltbox Brewing Company. And so the community is invited to lace up their running shoes, come together for a meaningful cause at the Seize the Day Walk Run taking place Saturday, June 6th. Participants of all ages, fitness levels are encouraged to join the walk run, which promotes health, inclusion, community spirit, while supporting individuals and families affected by epilepsy across the Maritime region. The Maritime Epilepsy Association provides vital programs, education, and advocacy for those living with epilepsy, and funds raised through the Seize the Day Run Walk will directly support these essential services, helping to improve quality of life and foster understanding of this often misunderstood neurological conditions. We're thrilled to partner with Saltbox Brewing Companies to bring the community together, and it's such an important cause, says the president, Angela McCarthy. And the event is about more than just fitness. It's about showing support, raising awareness, and making a real difference in people's lives. The event highlights include a 3-kilometer walk and a 5-kilometer run, routes suitable for all abilities, family-friendly activities, opportunities to connect with the community organizations, post-event refreshments and celebration, and early registration before May 15th is $30, and after May 15th, registration $35. So I will provide information, first of all, for council. Council members are invited to join us, as well as members of the community. But I was there last year at this event, and I realized how many people kind of live with some of these challenges with epilepsy. So it's a really important event. So I just wanted to make people aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boone. Anybody else have an announcement, special? No, well, I will just let everybody know that at St. James Parish Hall on Saturday from 11 to 3 o'clock, there is a pop-up sale for new and gently used dog gear. And these funds go to Elder Dog, which is a wonderful organization. So that's Saturday. Looks like it's raining on Saturday, and may as well find something to do in Mahone Bay. And another thing happening in Mahone Bay is at the Mahone Bay Center on Saturday afternoon from 1 until 4. It's the Repair Cafe. I've been waiting for this because I followed the one in Riverport recently, and it I think was a really good event for many people. So if you have something broken down or something you'd like someone to help you fix, I don't know how big an item. I heard some talk about power saws at my house just recently about getting things fixed. So I don't know how large the items are, but you can always see whatever you can get repaired. Anyway, it looks like it will be a good afternoon. Anyway, that's all I have to announce for this. So we will continue on with our meeting, and just want to know if there's any public input. No? No, okay. Well, then we'll move on. There's number 5, presentations, and then we did not have anyone want to do a presentation, so we'll move on to correspondences. 6.1, Aaron Donovan, anti-racism in Lunenburg County. Any discussion over that? That came just after we had made our decision. I think it came in the day after we had made our decision to for the committee to continue its work.
Yeah. Yes, and Town of Bridgewater is making their decision tonight,
Okay,
and then Lunenburg on Thursday.
on Thursday, okay. They're not going to NSFN?
Hmm?
They're not going to NSFN in Lunenburg?
Oh, that's a good question.
Lunenburg is, I talked to the mayor there.
Okay,
That's a good question.
okay, maybe they're doing it another night. Then. Okay,
Lunenburg's council is tomorrow.
usually it's
Tomorrow night.
Tuesdays at
Yeah,
5.
thank you. Yeah, that makes more
Okay.
sense. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay, so item 6.2, Sean Hatfield, Warden of the Municipality of Barrington, letter to Premier Houston requesting a 5-year freeze on power rates and exploration of public ownership of NSPI. Any, yes, Councillor Carter?
We don't usually, or we don't make a habit of just falling on and signing on with requests to piggyback on other people's causes, but I found myself kind of interested in this one and wondered what the mood is around the table to support that request for a 5-year freeze on power rates and exploration of public ownership of NSPI.
I have an opinion. I'm not sure if the council wants to hear about it
I
now.
would like to hear it.
Well, in short, I disagree with the warden wholeheartedly on almost every element of his letter. I mean, this is a regulated industry that has the benefit of, a well-staffed regulator that adjudicates the benefits of all the stakeholders, and I think that speaks for itself as it relates to privatization. I think that ship has long since sailed, and I think absolutely in New Brunswick, I think they're actually going the other direction and talking about the government divesting of the electrical utility for obvious reasons as well. So I think these are kind of antiquated notions that you can go back and put the genie back in the bottle from 1992, but I think we just need to make the best of the difficult situation we're in now. But that's just one opinion.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, Councillor Bufferman and then Boone?
I would think that it's unrealistic to expect power rates are frozen for a 5-year period. It's, I won't repeat what Councillor Feeney had to say. As for in his public ownership, it's an intriguing proposition. There's so many balls up in the air at the moment. I don't know where they're going to land, and it may or may not be an outcome. But it's certainly not an easy move.
Correct. Okay, Councillor Booth.
I guess my question for council, and just to properly put in perspective of this, is that if there's not something like a recommendation like this, then how do we resolve the issues of power rates that seem to be kind of going through the inflationary pressures and stuff like that? How do we help to, how do we contribute our voice to that in a positive, meaningful way? Because it seems to me that this is something that says, hey, let's put a cap on this. And there's something that, could be good. But anyway, I'd just love to hear people's input.
Councillor Wilson.
Well, if the ordinance had his way and they did cap rates, it just means that somebody else is going to pay, and likely the taxpayer. So it's just going to hide one cost in another area. And from my perspective, as we own a utility, then I would really love to see honesty in NSP rates, because if it was honesty, they'd be much higher now than they are on the books. And we'd look a lot better than we do at par. So the higher their rates go, happy to be.
Yeah, I think Councillor Wilson makes a good point. And we already do have subsidized rates coming from the deferral, of which we've been negatively impacted by that regulatory decision to smooth the rates over a long period of time. Essentially, this is requesting a more dramatic smoothing over a longer duration of time. And of course, we all know the economic impact of that, not only for the small utilities owned by the municipalities, but for Nova Scotia Power as well. So it's a difficult conversation, because if writing the letter would make, following the same strategy, I'd like to write a letter to make butter prices flat for the next 5 years, and or reduced. So a bunch of other things too. So
I think the CAO.
Well, I only wanted to offer that, within the rate structures, obviously right now, it is essentially just you pay for energy because you use energy, and it doesn't really take the ability to pay into account. And obviously the province has had long-standing energy rebate systems that are means tested, that are supposed to try to offset the cost of energy, particularly for home heating, obviously. I think that's where your realm of intervention is as government. If it's about, egalitarianism in terms of the rate structure. There was a big discussion a couple of years ago that I think fizzled out around the potential for a regulated rate structure that had some type of means testing involved in it. And that hasn't gone any further, to my knowledge. But that's the sort of thing that would presumably be available if it were regulated to any regulated utility. So, that there is a possibility there. I think there's a real challenge when you start to get into the difference between taxes and a egalitarian rate structure for energy. It was like, well, then why not just have it be free and put it on the tax rate? Big questions, but there have been discussions about such a thing.
Right.
Councillor Carver, you had your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the expanding my awareness of the whole picture.
All right. We will move on to 6.3, Barry Dupuy. Questions about the 2026-27 budget. So, any discussion? No?
Mayor, I thought they were good. I thought that Mr. Dupuy provided some good questions that have been addressed throughout our budget deliberations, but I think responding to Mr. Dupuy with answers to his questions makes a good sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, would you like to resolve that we put a letter together for the mayor's signature? That was
Fair enough. So I'd make that motion.
Okay. All those in favor signify. Opposed, the motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Just like to add that it's refreshing to see an issue brought forward to council in this format. It's much more helpful.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Totally agree.
yes,
I second that absolutely. Third that.
yeah,
And I think, you know, you guys immediately moved to give a response, which so shows that instead of posting, you know, indirectly, there is a value to reaching out, you get an actual
Yeah.
response.
exactly, exactly. That's the best way to communicate. Now we'll move on to staff reports. 7.1, report to council. I have to be at my open. Are there any, there are a number? I know I had something written down here. Myself,
Yeah, happy to take any questions. I don't think there's a whole lot to, mostly just reports that are on this meeting's agenda later on.
I have,
Councillor Carver.
yeah, I had a question about 4 items, if I, about the Oakland Lake report. I know that it says here that the report is complete, and it is, the report is on further down the agenda. But I do want to let people know, and I'll mention it again, is that members of the Climate and Advisory Committee have sent me many questions about the report and hoping to have further conversations about it. And the mail correspondence has been copied to Lauren and to the CAO. So we'll come back to that later when we.
Yeah, I was gonna
the
say,
report.
I've seen them, I think we can speak to them a little bit tonight when then.
Yeah, okay. They're just warming you up to that topic. Number 4, that this is about arranging a fire drill to provide information to the Fire Commission in Mayor's Cove.
Yeah,
I thought that we had provided them with data. Are we still expected to be?
but not the test, not the test front.
So we are required to provide them with a test run.
They've never actually asked, and this hasn't been discussed in any of our recent meetings. This was something that we offered to do. Back in lieu of information and in the hopes that it would happen before the snow came in, this was something that the town offered to do.
They did ask.
This was a request by the commission that was made in their June.
Okay, apologies.
Yeah, no, and it was made in the context of their June annual meeting, of which there was a commitment made that we would do that.
Oh.
Which I think used to be done. We used to provide it every 3rd year, I believe, historically, and that's where the origin of the question. Have we done a test recently? Now, the statistics that we shared with the commission may satisfy that requirement. Fair enough, but
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, it's good that it's being brought up because the weather has improved. I recently did reach out to the fire chief and I asked about their ability to schedule it, and he said that they would raise this at their next month's exercise, like they have a meeting, but also, you know, any more information about the intention behind the exercise of what we wanted them to do would be valuable, because there's only certain kinds of activities that there's a good spot to actually practice out there. So, you know, just, I think they're looking for some instruction, but at the same time, I think the council's been clear any type of exercise would probably be
Right,
acceptable.
So given that it's been hanging around for a long time,
Yes.
this issue would be wonderful to get it done
Yes.
and clear the air of that one. Can I go on to my next?
So if the
one?
feeling is it's still desired generally around the table, then that's good, we'll reinforce that with this.
Yeah. Number 10 refers to the trail connections of the NSP corridor. What's that about? What's that going to, what are we expecting to happen with that?
Connecting the PAC. This is something that came from PAC.
So yeah, it gives me a little bit. So with the recommendation to rezone the old school lab property as parks and open spaces, that means that we have a parks and open space area on each side of the Nova Scotia Power crosscut for the first time officially.
Okay.
And those trails that cut across it, connecting the two areas, which have been unofficial because the old school lab property was surplus and was not considered to be a park. If it is considered to be a park, they should become official and for the first time ever get an actual easement or whatever Nova Scotia Power is willing to grant, enabling them to be maintained such that they could be insured, because to be honest, over the years, for those who have used them, they've come and gone in terms of their level of quality or safety or insurability. So we would have a responsibility to maintain and permission to maintain them.
So the 50% that's been done, could you tell us what that
Well, this
entails?
is just to write a letter, so my understanding is the draft letter is ready for me to look at and then for Suzanne to sign. So,
Okay,
But maybe I missed something that
but I'll put a reminder tomorrow to try to get that to
the
Suzanne.
school lab lands, colloquially called that, that is surplus now, right? Or that is not zone parkland.
So the council has given direction to initiate the process of rezoning, which means there's going to be a public information meeting soon. The planners will put on, and then they'll report from that back to PAC to validate the
When
recommendation.
was that? That must have been in March.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
To direct that,
Probably
yeah.
was.
to direct that land be rezoned
from residential.
from residential to recreational.
Yes, well,
Much like the
parcel
solar.
of spaces.
Wow. I'll have to go back and look at the video, hear that discussion. Interesting.
Yeah, that came
I
from
guess it was
PAC
with you know,
with
Mhm.
the Jubilee Point Two idea,
Hmm,
so that is
okay. Anyway,
developing,
I'll catch up, I promise.
developing, okay.
Interesting.
And if I may go to my
yeah,
last one, so
yeah.
number 14, which is the installation of panels for public art displays. And then to initiate a request for proposals from a local artist. I have a question about how the adjudication of entries, how will entries be adjudicated? Because that's not mentioned here, and I think that's an important piece of this process.
Well, if the question is to me, I mean, my expectation had been that we would just bring conforming proposals to council.
I'm going to suggest asking people in the arts world what they suggest about adjudication. Like Vans, Nova Scotia, for visual
Well, I
arts.
can
Nova
tell you
Scotia.
what they'll, I mean, because I've been down this route before, so they'll recommend a panel of artists of some kind do the adjudication. So it's just down to whether we have time to assemble such a thing, and whether council.
Okay, well, if that's the,
the.
if you already know the answer.
And there is an idea brewing around that may come to our next council meeting about this type of thing, so to be continued.
Well, I hope that it's well continued and that local artists are consulted about the method of adjudication. I'm not sure that having council do the adjudication is a good idea.
Well, it's $15,000 to put the in capital. I mean, we could just, if it's going to be a contentious issue, I mean, it's not a core service delivery requirement. It
No,
was
it's
part of the
not.
beautification strategy.
Kind of part of the
right?
challenge with
We're
these
also-
things is that once they take on that life and need, policy backing and an ongoing panel and that type of commitment, then, you're really looking at something that is outsized for the level of $15,000. You'll almost immediately be considering whether that is an insufficient budget, I think. We did this with the tree donation monument. Just went out and said it's $5,000 budget. There was 2 proposals. We had 2 proposals. Staff presented them to council with a recommendation between them. So I generally felt, level of cost, level of effort, level of process. But we did speculate in the report on it that, council could undertake to deliver, ask staff to actually develop a public art policy and go to those lengths. It wouldn't be completable within the timeline of the Edgewater project, obviously. So just considerations. I'm not arguing one way or another, just it is not extremely straightforward to go that route.
Brian, did you have something? Okay. Anybody else? Oh,
I'm really concerned about this. because I think it's important that we do this well. We have a very strong artistic community here, and I think it's really important to have those people on board with whatever we do. So, and I don't know if how to address my concern. I can't make up a motion on the fly right now about it, but maybe I'll just give notice of motion until the next time that I will bring something to the next meeting about.
Yeah, I can just comment that we weren't going to have issued a request for proposals because the first step was working with the engineers, and I didn't know this at the time, to get the specifications of a mounting structure that can be easily removed for access. So they're just on that part right now, and that will take a little bit of time. I need to have that finished so I can provide artists with the exact specifications for whatever we're doing, so. Yeah, you do notice the motion? I think you can do it now. I don't know, does it matter to do it now or?
No, do you want to do it now?
To recommend that council.
So just to say, you're doing a notice of motion concerning the subject of.
Oh, yes, a notice of motion.
Yeah. But I just, Kelly's not here, so we're saying it into the camera. Say, we're doing a notice of motion for Penny right now.
I wasn't taking that in.
We just wanted to make it
I'd like to make a notice of motion regarding the
adjudication of.
regarding the adjudication of art submissions for the art installations along Edgewater project along the trail.
Okay, so noted. That is the May 15th, 12. Okay. Okay, anybody else have any questions? I had 3. Let's see, okay. The report for asset retirement obligations to the audit committee. It's due in July and it hasn't begun. Like,
Yeah.
I was a little,
This one's a little
It's a-
tricky to.
It's more of an explanation there. So
Okay.
the asset and retirement obligations, well understood obviously by our auditors. There'll be some commentary, I'm sure, that'll come at the next audit committee associated with the 2025 statements that are coming down the road. I think the intent behind the request here is to do like asset retirement 101 for the masses. Like, what is this? Why does it matter? Why do we care? I think that piece of work is to be determined about how we're going to boil that down. But I think that the ARO and its implications on the town, its financials, I think are in good hands now with the auditors and Ashley and Dylan.
I think it was noted at the last audit presentation, since we're moving through it pretty quickly, that there were some steps that had been taken already, knowing that we were going to be qualified on that basis to start to get it out of the way for a future year. So I think when we get to 24, 25, it definitely will be a qualification.
Yeah.
But at least we'll receive some more explanation as to what the pieces still to remain to be completed are and what the status is. And a big part of why this is cited as had begun, of course, is we don't currently have a knowledge as to who our manager of finance will be for this session. We don't currently have an appointed audit committee nor a scheduled date. So most of those are the reasons for the uncertainty, as Joe said. It's not for lack of progress on the asset retirement obligation itself.
I think the other salient point is that, like, whether there's a will at council to make the investment in the due diligence to resolve the arrows, to be able to speak to that, and is up for debate. I mean, it's not crystal clear to me that there's a lot of desire to spend the kind of money it will take to answer that question.
Great. So I also have question number 7 about the report analyzing the various alternates for planning and development services. where are we on that? Like, is there anything here we can, are we looking to buy from another municipality or bring someone in-house? Which way is the are we going to get a variety of options or are we? Or,
Yeah, I think
like-
I've had this question a couple of times, and it is essentially still, I think, the same. No, I guess.
It's
notionally
due
three
in next
options.
month, so.
Yeah, it's due next month. So then it's always been the answer is the same. Unfortunately, it's next month. It was should have been this month. It's waiting on the other parties who have been going through their budget processes and resourcing and everything else to get back to us with more formal proposals that I can talk about openly.
Okay.
So what I have been able to say to this point in open session is that we've been in some discussion, obviously, with the District of Lunenburg. They provide a regional planning, regional building inspection, fire inspection service, and have quite a bit of capacity in these areas, both we currently receive in terms of planning and development from the municipality of Chester, but also within their engineering shop to do some value-added work that we have not had the opportunity to obtain. So there's kind of a anticipation of a full service proposal from the District of Lunenburg. But I don't have a formal proposal at this stage. We forwarded them information to develop a proposal.
Okay.
And then there's at least one other option to potentially at least the part share service with another adjacent municipality. But again, I don't have anything more formal.
Okay.
And I suppose the reason I said notionally there's three is that obviously going our own is one of the options. I think it would only receive a cursory treatment in the report, because I would not, I would recommend against it predominantly from a staffing shortage kind of practicality. So, to have installation on the building inspection front, which is quite vital, I think we would have to purchase that service from the District of Lunenburg under any circumstances. And then we'd be down to having a lone staff person on our staff who is both planning and development, and whether that person could be, appropriately retained, et cetera. There's a lot of risks associated.
Okay.
So, but we'll look at those different options in the report. I just don't want to put an option on the table involving another municipality that I can't actually say has been formally conveyed,
Right.
in case, of course, their council didn't approve doing so. So hopefully May. Hopefully not
Okay,
later than May.
hopefully May.
Yeah.
And then
Don't be getting it.
I had number 11 is, as well about the land, it says 90% and April, it's supposed to be, so have we had much interest in the landscaping?
Oh,
service?
yeah, so we're down
Oh.
to the final detail
Oh,
in terms of
good.
the issue for progressive proposal. So it's not about, we do still fish for progressive
Okay.
proposal. But we were down last week with the garden club and also with, predominantly with the contractor and engineers to mark out different areas and settle on topsoil mix and things like that,
Okay.
so that we can convey very explicitly. It is kind of an interesting mixed bag, because we've got two areas where we're looking for a contractor to completely develop and implement a plan. One in which we have just the supply of materials and the garden club is taking care of the actual installation. And one where the garden club has given us direction for the supply and design, but the third party contractor would complete the work. So it's an interesting little mixed bag of areas, and then the vast majority is confirmed now to be sodded. And just today, we were going over the process as we discussed, Councilor Palmer, I'm looking at you because you had a motion that you pulled back on last meeting about what are we doing with the area along the footings of the fence posts.
Okay.
And, how that relates to the shoreline. The reason Coastal Action was involved with that is how that relates to the adjacent shoreline, because they want something that will not spread or, contaminate. And so it's easier to lean in and say, well, everything on that should be like the natural stuff that aligns with what they're planting anyway, but we haven't confirmed like what's actually going in. Yet.
Okay.
So, last details.
All right, thank you, Councilor Boone.
So my question, so based on this conversation, the landscaping is supposed to really, it's for just the visual aspects and of Edgewater, but when is so when would they be doing this work?
So Harbor will have, the intention is that they'll complete the areas that are going to have topsoil in them within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So by the end of this week, I certainly hope to have this tender out and do it a quick turnaround with a bidders meeting within the following week or so, and then, an award within 3 weeks at most. And one of the main criteria is adherence to the timeline to complete the plantings before the end of June. So, that's the timeline we're going for. I think it's still reasonable, but it's only giving people 6 weeks. You have to be ready to jump on it, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it may inform availability of plants, may inform the designs, which that's just gonna have to be the way it is.
And the contractors, like I wouldn't necessarily know their schedule, but they're getting into busy season now. So we have to be right on top of that, I guess.
That's the thing, so, that's where it's a public request for proposals. We'll hope that there is a good amount of interest, but some people may be unable to deliver within the timeline that we're providing. And we may get proposals sometimes that say it'll take an extra month, but it's gonna be a lot cheaper. Are you willing to consider this option? Yeah, it would certainly be good to get that out as soon as we can, so hopefully not this week.
Did you have any other questions, Councillor Boone, or?
No.
No? Anybody else with staff report? Okay, would someone like to move that we file? Councillor Wilson?
Maybe they accept staff report for information, your worship.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Boone, thank you. All those in favor signify aye. Opposed, the motion is carried, thank you. We will move back to NJSB office relocation.
So this obviously is coming through from the Municipal Joint Services Board, and the board has already discussed for a couple of meetings now, and then more recently made the decision to support office relocation from the current location they have in Aberdeen in Bridgewater up to the new Well-Tide building, which is under construction in Bucksville. And I think background information is presented here, but as it largely just pertains to the relatively minor overage in the budget associated in the current year.
Okay.
Relatively.
Councillor
Quite
Coulter?
sure. What is the Well-Tide building? Is that the new construction across from the?
Where the library is going, I think, and the
Which
same
is-
building, isn't it? Where the,
It's the District of Lunenburg is getting some space in there, and also the library space.
Yes, but where is that?
Oh, sorry, well, it's next to the French school on the road behind. I'm sorry, the road names are not super well known.
so Champlain is the one we go in, but
Behind the District of Lunenburg's office building in Cookville.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, the Joint Services Board discussed this topic a few times. I think there's absolute consensus by the board that the existing staff space is no longer up to snuff. They're having all kinds of heating problems and air quality problems. I mean, it's a good move to leave. The discussion was really around, what's the long-term best solution, and the recommendation from staff and the new COO is certainly to move in this direction. We benefited, of course, from her having someone with a lot of federal government real estate expertise, and I think that really framed up the story about strategically, we want to lease versus own. So there was a lot of spiritual debate about the virtues of owning, given the fact that the municipalities, have a long life curve, and we have land, and so I think that scenario was well debated. But I think the staff recommendation is to move in this direction, specifically do the leasehold improvements that are noted in the report, and then incur the incremental and significantly higher rents for an evolving and growing organization. So I think at the end of the day, the board came into consensus that this is the way to move, and I'd recommend we follow the recommendation, although I have some reservations about it.
okay. Anyone else? Definitely they need to move. I will agree with that. Some people are working in closets and hallways. They really outgrew their space and I don't know how many times tech services has moved in the last 5 years. It's been incredible. But as joint services expand, I hope part of this decision leaves room for expansion as well. That's not something that I thought of in the meetings. But, you know, we've seen them move, you know, different groups from MJSB move from office to office spaces. The demands on them became greater and needing more room for staff. So I hope there is room for expansion in this hopefully
Yeah, the
final
part of
move.
The renting thing is like, it's hard to plan for either, you know, growth or reduction in scope, which really is all on the table in a field like this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So this item is for information. Is
Well,
it-
we do actually need
Yeah.
a motion to approve the
approval,
budget variance, so just from a home base.
It's improving the joint services budget variance.
So our annual, like the impact this year, because we'd already approved their budget, of course, so this is why we're being asked to approve our share at the $3,139 additional budget.
Kevin,
Which
you
isn't
got your
reflected in
hand
our
up?
budget either, so we'd have to find
Yeah.
a little room
And
for it.
Penny?
And just the understanding and just going to the budget numbers, what do we currently contribute? I kind of vaguely remember seeing this. So this is
Yeah,
an
this is
additional,
broken out into a
31.
million pieces, so it's kind of, I guess what they're saying is this is the contribution that is not attributable to the waste, because they're saying overhead for waste is, I don't see any reflection here, so.
Yeah.
This would be spread out through IT and everything else.
HR, occupational health, and
Yeah.
safety, procurement.
So how do they get to our share?
And senior management.
Like proportionate shares based on the MGSB agreement may or may not be an accurate reflection of this, and I might wanna, I might wanna look a little bit more into that, to be honest. Ashley, obviously not being here full time, hasn't scrutinized the breakdown of this number to all the various cost centers, but we should be paying, the largest part of this should just be for general overhead within the Municipal Joint Services Board, which I think is, Joe, you would know better than me, somewhat absorbed by the, there's a fixed rate that goes to the actual revenue generated by the board, and some comes
Yeah.
back to partners. And then obviously for IT services, we would be in for our share of the IT services, which is not insubstantial. But
I mean, I think that the salient point here is, yes, there'll be our allocated component of the overall expense increase associated with the higher rent is kind of more, is nominal. But really, it's the big ticket item is the drawdown of the $350,000 to do the leasehold improvements. So that is funded through a drawdown of the capital reserves, of which are very healthy within the Joint Services Board. But I mean, this is something that I think we directionally wouldn't have historically thought that this is a large investment in a non-core item. You know, usually when we're investing in the Joint Services Board capital budget, it's for the waste facility and trucks and overhead associated with Mullock Road's infrastructure. So this is a departure from that, albeit like the contingent and the things that we ask the Joint Services Board to do on our behalf now is much higher. It's
it is worth noting the capital reserve was generated largely, I think almost exclusively by the waste operation
it
over
was.
the years. Yeah.
Right.
So we're not being asked to approve the use of the reserve, because that's not within our council's, right to approve that. But we are being asked to approve the difference that the rent makes to our annual contribution, which to your question about proportionality, even though I didn't directly answer it, we're contributing more than $100,000, certainly I think more than 150 across the different business lines. So, there is that as a proportionality to the increase of 3,100. I don't have it all in front of me, but our solid waste charge is like 70,000.
Well, I wish all of our partnerships worked this well, but
Councillor Carver and then Councillor Wilson.
I just really wanted confirmation that $3,100 was the annual change for
Yes.
us. That was after getting over being astonished at the amount, the actual overall amount of which was 200% per annum increase over the current rent.
Councillor Wilson.
So I can make a motion that we approve the expenditure of $3,100 $91 or
$39.
39.
$39. The additional lease costs for MSJ, JSB.
Okay, there's a seconder there, oh, Council Copeland, thank you. All those in favor signify aye. Opposed, the motion is carried. Thank you all. Back in my agenda and finding item 7.3, request for direction, rezoning 19 Aberdeen Lane. That's our neighbor. You read the report, so it's quite simple. Yes, Council.
I have a question, and I probably should know the answer, but I don't. Historically, the commercial part of the town that required ground floor retail or some sort of commercial with residential elsewhere was confined to what we used to call harbor commercial. Is it correct to say that through all that elaborate going on with the land use bylaw that we've changed the name and extended the rule to other parts of town? I guess it must have not, because this is certainly not harbor.
Yeah, so commercial core zone, which maybe did replace harbor, doesn't, I don't know that it did, I can't recall the harbor one, that could be 2 zoning updates ago. But regardless of the terminology, that's the zone that applies both to that area along Main Street that you're describing and would apply to this building and would apply to a lot of other buildings going up Main Street as well. So that distinction, I'm not sure about the harbor part. And then most likely, I can double check, it does probably map to the zone, which it may have been an overlay rather than a zone requirement. So in the past, it may have said like within this area, so described or with a picture or fronting on Main Street, you will be required to have the 50% ground floor commercial. And now it could potentially just be saying the zone is required to. So there may have been something unintentional there. I can't recall whether it was discussed extensively. We happen to be right in that process at PAC right now, so it'd be a good time to double check.
Yeah.
Councillor Popelman?
Just to refresh my mind, since I can't see out of the back here, isn't it sandwiched between residential properties apart from the town parking lot?
Yeah, the town parking lot, I think, is technically institutional now, and
But the side of that is residential, and the other side is
Yeah.
residential.
Yeah.
So it makes
the
sense.
prevailing character of Aberdeen Lane is definitely residential, and from the traffic perspective, it's not suitable really for commercial purposes.
Yeah.
It's more appropriate for residential because it's very difficult to drive.
Councillor Carter?
Yeah, I'd like to support this idea, this whole notion, both because I think, it's off Main Street, it's not part of that Main Street commercial area, and also because it has the potential to provide long-term rental accommodation. So I'll move that council direct staff to prepare draft amendments to the NPS and land use bylaw and related staff report.
Seconder here? Oh, Councillor Wilson, thank you. All those in favor signify aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you.
Oh, I can confirm now. So it's actually, currently it's linked to both commercial core and commercial general zone. So maybe you want to bring this up at PAC or something.
Okay. Put that on your agenda, Mr. Wilson. All right, the 7.4, the Edgewater Trail asphalt color. I would like to just defer that to the end of our meeting when we come out of closed session.
Or at least defer the recommendation.
Yes.
Like, just, you don't have to not talk about the report, but as a suggestion to give council the opportunity to consider in full context with it, maybe preferable to hold any decisions until after the closed session.
Am I still there?
I don't know. I got a quick
No.
item or something.
And then, so we'll move on to 7.5, staff report town EV chargers.
Mayor, I'd move the council direct staff to proceed with the relocation of the fire hall public EV charger to the waterfront charging station as part of the overall Edgewater project.
Okay, second by Councillor Boone. Thank you. We had quite a bit of discussion during the budget deliberations on this topic. People are wondering why we're not talking about it, but we did
But it's a great report.
No,
I
it's a
thank
great
lot of the
report.
staff for putting this together, and certainly if the public wanna see, are those chargers being used? We've had 1,925 sessions on the one behind the pharmacy alone, so that's the statistic.
Mayor, I noticed that Mr. Davidson also weighed in on this, who's our climate intern for the summer.
Yeah,
That's
so
all
this is not even the summer interns, although he will be here for a little bit longer. But another opportunity we've had to have an intern, so it's always something that, you know, once Lauren's got our flag out there, we continue to attract support and resources, and yeah, so it's been great to have Chris along. I think there'll be a couple more reports coming from him in his time.
Good, good. Okay, well, ready for the question? All those in favor signify aye. Opposed, nay, the motion is carried. Okay, just moving along here. 7.6, staff report, water withdrawal renewal.
So it was already referenced that this staff report, despite the name, is intended to tie in the process that would be required at the previous question. What would be the necessary process to obtain permission for the potential redamming? And there's been a lot of discussion about, you know, would that redamming be helpful? Would it be necessary? What would be the objective of it? Ultimately, the recommendation here is that all of those things need to be taken into consideration as part of the same process that is required every 10 years, which happens to be coming up, and that we should essentially scope that process appropriately to consider. The key consideration being, is there a need to increase withdrawal? So, you know, it may be possible to characterize the necessary scope better based on that, the answer to that question. But ultimately, the recommendation here is about taking incremental steps over a period of several years rather than defining the scope all up front. It is possible that the scope maximally defined could be in the neighborhood of $60,000. That does essentially presume that we would be making a pitch for intervention, either increasing the withdrawal limit or damming even just to maintain the current withdrawal limit. So if that pitch were not determined to be necessary or possible, or, you know, a combination thereof, obviously, wouldn't make much sense if it was unnecessary and possible, that we would have to spend more money to complete the requirements and justify that. And that would be not to actually design or implement a dam, but simply in the regulatory context, what would need to be done. So there's a couple of things that we could do this year. There's one that's free, which is gathering information at a more granular level of detail. So we monitor periodically the outflow from the lake. We could monitor it more, you know, things like that we've been advised to do and the staff will do now in order to gather that information. We could also install equipment to do these things on an ongoing basis, but it's quite expensive. So at a minimum, we'll track it more manually, knowing it's going to be relevant. So there's some things like that. And then other things would require the use of equipment we don't have or support by resources that we don't have. And that's where the budget comes from.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Wilson.
Just a sort of an idle question, but do you know, if the levels have snapped back to their historic April levels over the winter?
It's a good question. So it's end of April levels, I've been told, but they did look on track to do so, if I can say, based on looking at the February, March levels. So certainly it's headed back in that direction based on how wet the winter months were. As to the last month, and if we hit that target, we'll see, I guess, at the end of the week. We will have a report.
There was a lot of rain and drizzle. Snow.
It was a wet winter.
Yes. Councillor Poppins.
So my apologies, but I lost my agenda briefly. I've got it back now.
Oh.
But so the question really was going to be this 28, 29 required reporting. That's required irrespective of anything. Because
Yes, but if we are applying to just keep at the same level, and if no intervention would be seen to be necessary to do that, the scope of the work for the application would be as minimal as possible.
Doesn't this connect somehow or other with the raw water pipe and the draw requirements of that, should we get approval for that?
There is a possible crossover there. I mean, it essentially has to do with, if the component of being able to withdraw more water, as the, transmission line currently is capped out based on its capacity, how would that capacity to withdraw more water at a given time, and potentially therefore ability to support more development and use of the system, affect the withdrawal that would be required from the lake? So like, if we could do it, we presume that we were able to do it, and we were therefore more inclined to expand the system to take new customers. Would we then want to have more supply capacity within the 10-year time
Which
frame?
is
Study?
all
Which
the
is, so
same,
it is all relevant.
which is what I was getting to.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a useful work.
Yeah, and it's probably good timing that it would cross over in year 2, so that like this basic science would be done, and then we'll also know at that time, we'll have design completed, we'll have been shopping for funding, we'll have some sense of the potential for that to move forward.
Okay.
Mayor, I think the report speaks well to the fact that it's useful work, but I do wonder about, so we're just gonna layer another $40,000 or $50,000 into the utility, though. That's the plan here. This is gonna get funded from the depreciation reserve.
Yeah, so this is all rate eligible and depreciation is
Yeah.
eligible. So under normal circumstances, you would say, well, every 10 years, we gotta spend, I mean, traditionally, I would have said 20,000. If you asked me, I would have said 20. At CBCL, we're like, whoa, no, it's just, since you've last done it, 30 to 40 is normal, and it's going up, and if you're asking for more, it's gonna be more. So that's where the 60,000 comes from. But we're not under normal circumstances. We're adding $60,000 and then depreciating it over the 10-year period of the study is just a simple ask of the board. We're asking it of the board in the context of a tremendous deficit, ongoing deficit structurally, and an accumulated deficit. So yeah, there's no given that the board allows for these costs to be absorbed.
I mean, it wouldn't break my heart to contemplate, we need a better funding structure. If you think about, we had a meeting last week, we're adding another $560,000 of allocated debt out of the 2.7 million to the water utility. We have 2 weeks ago, the meeting before that, we had the allocated splits of the debt associated with the water utility for Edgewater. And we're already running an operating deficit that we know we can't mathematically recover through the rates. And I'm just, and this is not the straw that's going to break the camel's back, of course. This is just, a relatively inconsequential amount of money in the grand scheme of the town's budget, but on the utilities budget, it is very consequential. I'm just wondering if we are running headfirst into a regulatory wall here that, we're adding a lot, we're adding a lot of debt into the utility, which is we know we have to do it. Not debating that, but I'm wondering about whether we're better off figuring out if the town should pay for this versus the utility, if we should, or whether there's an expectation that the regulator will allow us to bake these costs.
My advice would be, if it's of any value, is it is just a tactical decision, is that we haven't yet started to, and even the discussion of Edgewater, intend to absorb the costs within the town. So if we haven't yet started to it, we're going to
Don't start now.
later this year. Don't start now.
Yeah,
Just
okay,
say,
fair
we're
enough.
taking a consistent approach pending the regulator's
Okay.
judgment in this regard.
Good advice. I'll take your advice on that one. Okay. Fair enough.
Councillor Carter, you been-
Yes, I'm struggling with getting my head around this whole issue, because I know that the Climate and Environment Committee members have some concerns with this approach to around the damming, and I think I may have captured one important issue was that in addition to the engineering study and the bathymetric survey of the lake, that they would also recommend at least a hydrological study to be looking at the whole water table and its behavior in relation to all this. So I'll just want to run this by the table about referring the whole question about the damming or considering damming to the Climate and Environment Committee for input and recommendations. That's
Okay.
not to obviate the recommendation that's here now for the $20,000, because that's a start.
Okay,
So if I
Ian,
could,
do
you know,
want-
that, I actually think that's a good way to describe it. So everything I heard from the committee aligns with everything we talked to CBCL about. It's essentially that, you know, the first steps, regardless, you reviewing the bathymetry, staff would be collecting data on the outflows, things like that, monitoring this year. Those would be the first steps that CBCL would recommend. The completion of a full hydrological model is one of the options that they've put on the table that we might consider for next year. I think that's where we get into wanting to have a bit of a better picture of the level of commitment, because at least from their perspective, that itself is a $40,000 to $50,000 item. So the necessity for it, and I think the committee could inform the health care council to understand the magnitude of the decision.
So I will plan to refer after this one to move that we refer this to the whole question to the Climate and Environment Committee for discussion, review and the possible recommendation.
Committee loves to work, don't they?
So,
And especially if you can find a cheaper way to come up with these things, I know it's always on their mind, so.
but my impression was that the conversation got kicked off from the committee and was the recommended, there was a recommendation to explore the options. You know, and I know the world's changed a lot since the 1929 motion. The mayor and some men are gonna dam the lake. I mean, we can't do those things now, but
I think it was actually the Source Water Protection Committee that was willing to jump in the original push towards the exploration of the dam.
okay.
Rather than, I don't think the recommendation to dam came from Climate and Environment. They've since spent a great deal of time talking about the
Yeah.
subject,
I mean,
I'm sure, but I just wanted to correct.
I mean, we did have
that came from them.
We did have a historic drought last year, and we've had a number of droughts in the last decade. So I mean, this is a topical.
The options on the table, I think, is the main,
But,
you know, and we would.
But the
be
utility
looking
can't, the
different
utility
things.
can't afford $160,000 of studies.
It's likely the studies will
Right.
cost more than the dam structure itself,
Right.
which is interesting.
Okay, is it, anybody want to make the motion?
So I mean, this one is unfortunate timing, because obviously we just got through the stage budget. We hadn't had the information back from CBCL to justify making this recommendation, so there's 10,000 in the budget, as Councillor Feeney, or Deputy Mayor Feeney pointed out. It's only gonna push the water utility budget or the reserve further into a net deficit, but.
Okay, Councillor Wilson,
I'll make the motion that council increase the allocation for the water withdrawal renewal study in 26-27 to $20,000.
there's second, Councillor Palfreyman,
I'd like
thank
to
you.
make a comment if I may.
Sure.
Just, once again, this is, you know, we get all tangled up in these things with one data point.
Mhm.
And we all remember in 2023, there was no talk about damming the lake to make sure we had enough water. There was water in everybody's basement.
Yeah.
We had lots.
Mhm.
Last year we didn't. This year, who knows? We may never see another drought like that. So I think it's good that we get the ball rolling, but let's not panic until we see what the long-term trends are.
Sure.
I just have a question,
Yes.
Your Worship. Councillor Wilson, I didn't hear him say the water utility budget in his motion. Maybe he did.
They did not, because it doesn't say, oh, it does say that, and I didn't say it.
I thought he,
So
But did you mean to say, just say whether you intended.
I intended to say water utility budget. I might have just sped right over it, sorry.
Since Kelly is not here, I was doubt that's enough to correct the record. I think it's fine.
She saw him taking the minutes.
Yeah, that's, I just,
Okay, all those in favor, signify aye. Opposed? The motion is carried, thank you.
So, Your Worship, while we're on that topic, I will move that council refer the issue of the water renewal study to the Climate and Environment Committee for further discussion and possible recommendation.
Okay, is there a seconder for that motion?
I'm sorry, could you read that again, Councilor Carver?
I need a seconder.
Could you just read it again so I know what I'm seconding?
Oh, I can't read it again. I was making it up as I went along.
Oh, this is a read it back kind of situation. Well,
Yeah.
you're as good to do it as anybody, so.
I move that council refer the question of the water withdrawal renewal study to the Climate and Environment Committee for further discussion and possible recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilor Wilson, thank you.
So just a question. So council just affirmed that we're going to fund the study. So the committee is going to do what? As it relates to they're going to critique the decision to fund the study?
Well, I'll pull up the 3 emails that are probably 3 or 4 or 5 pages long each and read them to you. So it
But what
you
what
understand
specifically,
why-
what we're referring, what are we referring to the committee? Like we decided we're gonna fund the study. It came to council from the committee. We approved an appropriation to do the study. The decision's been made, the study's going to be forthcoming. What are we referring to the committee?
the information that the CAO has provided tonight about the different steps and the different options, so that all of the different avenues available are well understood.
Yeah, I don't know if this helps, but where it says the question, like maybe a bit challenging, if it said the potential scope, it would at least provide clarity around that point, because as I see it, it's a question of the scope. There's a strict level of scope would be required to meet the requirements of the regulator, and that would be keeping costs as low as potentially required. And I think staff's perspective is that, council will weigh in as necessary, but we would automatically keep the scope to the level required by the regulator. Whereas my understanding of what the committee is likely recommending is an expanded scope, maybe expanded beyond what is strictly speaking required, and that they would like to contemplate whether that's something they would recommend to the council. And if the motion adequately captures that or not, I don't know. I do think that there's a valid point that whatever they come up with is going to cost more, and the utility doesn't have money. But that being said, that would be a recommendation that they will presumably bring back and will be considered on its own merits at a future time.
It might be, and it's relevant also, but Councillor Wilson said that are we basing our information or the reactions on 1 point data? And I think if we want to be protecting our water supply, we have to be prepared to spend the money.
Councilor Paulson?
It seems to me that the motion is premature in that, so we're going to go with just agreed to fund the analysis over a period of time. Will give us some sense of what the requirements might be down the road. I guess climate has got a free agenda. They can do what they wish in terms of examining options. But I don't particularly feel the need to push for a particular report at this point in time.
There's a very good point procedurally, though, that you made, that the committee can still discuss the subject, that you just wouldn't have the weight of being a referral of council.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion?
Well, I think that the committee's going to talk about it anyway, whether it's referred or not, frankly, but I would prefer to have it come as a referral from council.
Claire, there's a question? All those,
Mayor, if you I think there's an intent, this is a topic that's likely to be discussed by the committee. But I'm just not sure if the motion captures the theme here about, we're referring the water withdrawal renewal. Is that's the motion, to refer the decision?
Specifically, it was the question of the water withdrawal renewal, which,
I mean, maybe the referring
probably tried to jot it down.
the scope, I guess it's really the scope. is really what we're talking about, right?
Well, that was my suggestion is.
Really talking through.
Perhaps it would better sum it up, but
The $20,000 version versus the $80,000 version.
well, yeah, it's probably more next year's scope. $20,000 this year and then another 10 or 50 next year.
Excluding design and construction of the dam itself.
Yeah.
So this is just a discussion. So our work will inform our withdrawal application. And our application has to be presented to the,
Yeah, nothing that we're proposing out of that $20,000 would be in addition to the basic minimum requirements. It's just that since we need to meet them, we could meet them now and then get the ball rolling. And if there's going to be optional scope, there'd be time to undertake it, which is really should be informed by the results of the first phase anyway, before we would. So we'd come back with a report before the end of the fiscal year informing next year's, but so there certainly will be another part to this.
Okay,
I'm almost wondering if we should just refer the memo and staff and council's decision to the committee for them to not to give them direction at all, but just for information. This is what's happened thus far. Do you have any other recommendations you'd like to provide?
Well, in that sense, I think the motion is the wording is quite very close to that.
Yeah.
I mean, the question of it is the question you're considering.
Yeah.
It's summed up in the report. I would just include, and Lauren's not here anyway, so I'll try to relay this to her, but just include this report that you received tonight in the package for that meeting, if this were to pass. I think it's reasonable.
Alright. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, carry on, climate and environment. Going on to 7.7, Riverport Electric Light Commission. And speaking of that, I'm about to go dead on my computer, so I'll be off screen while I'm looking.
Well, thank you. Yes, so just, I guess briefly, this report was requested. It obviously just raises the surface of the substance of the arrangements, but I think it does provide the requested overview. Happy to take any questions.
It's a useful,
Okay, Councillor Copeland?
I think it's a useful report that gives down in black and white what the arrangement is at the moment, and the recommendation is definitely appropriate because we are already contemplating a broader study that will get into more detail and more decision points. So
CEO, do you have an update on the timing of the Riverport Commission's annual meeting sometime in the next?
They moved it to the last week of May.
Okay.
And they did that on the assumption that they'll receive their 2024 financial statements sooner than that.
Okay.
Which seems to be on track at this point. But yeah, I guess we'll have a definitive confirmation in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, Councillor Carver?
Will anybody from our council or staff be attending?
Oh, yeah.
I have attended in the past. I generally do plan to attend. I have no function in the meeting. And I'm sure council members are welcome to, but would generally suggest that it is a meeting of members, and as non-members, it would just be to observe.
No feedback.
Although there's important agenda items that are very important to the town to be resolved. There's an expectation that certain outstanding items are going to be resolved, especially the decision to
And when is
convert
that
their
meeting?
loan, their long receivable into a loan. And I'm assuming that's happening at the same meeting.
Yes, it should, my expectation, it should be on the agenda.
And the date of that meeting?
It's the last week of May at this point. I want to say it's the 26th, but I don't have it right in front of me. And I believe it's still, pending, although likely to be a date.
So there's no
Alright,
motion needed. for
No,
that.
no.
Well, I was just to get a motion to accept the report for information, not all.
Move that we accept the report on the Riverport Electric Light Commission contractual arrangements being received for information.
Okay, is there a second? Council Kaufman, thank you. Any more? No? All those in favor, signify aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. All right. Back to the agenda. And item 8.1, we're going to defer, like we did the other item about the trail asphalt color, to coming back out of closed session. So, committee reports. Social Open Doors 9.1, their monthly report. Any?
Mayor, you said a question about under the energy poverty moniker. I thought that was really interesting. That is that always been historic? Is that always that information always been in the report? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I was curious, actually, this came up, maybe even when you were away, Joe. The difference in terms of the Nova Scotia Power delayed billing, and if we saw a big increase in arrears.
Mhm.
And it was substantial, but not as substantial as I would have expected. Like the number of people who were in arrears after the delayed billing, and maybe it'll catch up, but I would have thought it would really spike as a result.
Right.
People having trouble catching up.
Town of Bridgewater has done a lot of work over the years on this piece with energy poverty and finding ways of helping households.
Yeah, it's still such, I mean, the most difficult thing remains the multi-unit, where you're not the owners, where you're the tenants, and just how do you actually deal with the cost of energy in those situations?
Mayor, I was thinking though, I mean, this is the first time I really recognized that information so prominently displayed on the slide, but I'm kind of curious to see CAO's point about with that delayed billing that NSP had due to their cyber attack. I just wonder if what this number is relative to where it's been historically.
Well, that's what I was saying. I did look back. It seemed like I think it had increased to 20, it was in 20% range rather than doubling. But there was a jump, but not as much as I was expecting.
Councilor Boone, did you have a question?
Yeah, and this data is for all of the South Shore, correct? Even though it's kind of spearheaded by Bridgewater, or is it?
It's
A
based
lot of
in
it would
Lunenburg
come from
County.
it.
So, I mean, it's based in Lunenburg County, so whoever is coming to the Bridgewater area.
It just
But
says
they're-
South Shore.
Well,
Open Doors
there's no, but they're serving Queens County, town of Lunenburg, district of,
Queens is the notional limit.
yeah.
Sorry, I don't see where that is.
It's on the pie chart.
Yeah, okay.
So it's essentially, it's
Oh, I see.
Lunenburg County and
Got it.
Queens
Thank
County.
you. Thank you.
It's very small.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
And, okay,
Yeah, the website really focuses on Lunenburg. Lunenburg and Queens. Okay, so Mission, Lunenburg, and Queens. Is the mission.
okay. We'll move on to 9.2, Heritage Advisory Committee. I didn't think I saw any motions.
There isn't a motion in there.
Thank you, Greg.
Welcome.
That's Greg. There isn't a motion there, but I'm just gonna flag the item number 4, because insurance has become a problem for registered properties. They're being challenged frequently, and insurance denied or canceled at the last minute, and Kelly, Kelly here, has been able to do some stiff handling and running interference, getting the provincial representatives to help deal with insurance companies and tell them that it's like any older property.
Mhm.
There's no special requirement. So the thought was that the committee might consider asking council to approve adding a statement to the heritage bylaw concerning that, essentially stating that council would not force a rebuild of a destroyed registered property, because that's one of the things that the insurance agencies are that, oh, it's way too expensive to rebuild a registered heritage property.
Right. Right. I know a lot of churches have gone through that issue in recent years. Councillor Buckingham?
Could it be required?
Pardon?
Could it be required? I've never seen anything that suggests that.
It comes up as discussion, and it sort of becomes a little juggling point,
in a
a
community.
leveraging between the insurance
So you're
agents.
making a statement that really has
Simply
no
to make
impact
the statement,
except
yeah.
marketing.
Well, but some buildings, like our church, we years ago decided we would never rebuild.
Mhm.
And not for insurance reasons, just that our requirements are so much different and environmentally to build something that
Well,
isn't.
Same thing in home-based sense, the
Yeah.
insurance level required to do that.
Yes.
It's just not.
Well, anyway, this is not a motion right now, it's
Okay.
just gonna consider it, so that we'll take the comments right back.
And I wasn't present at the meeting, but just quickly reviewing the bylaw, I mean, I think the gray area would be centered around partial destruction.
Mhm, yeah,
So like
yeah.
demolition is not
Yeah.
approved automatically, it's still something that would be prohibited. Rebuilding, fixing it in a manner that it would thereby comply with the bylaw. I certainly would think without clarification, an insurance company could read it as, partially damaged construction has to be returned to the heritage design.
So just better wording.
If we're
Yeah.
willing to allow
Yeah.
the idea that a partially damaged
Yeah.
heritage building would be returned not to the heritage condition that it had originally, I think you'd have to maybe say the heritage designation is lost, or there's some understanding
It'd
of.
be interesting if it were to happen in a heritage designated area. A rebuild would have to reflect the architecture.
Character and not the actual
Yeah.
building.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
right.
but that's, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, so that's
that
not
gives you
nearly
some-
as stringent.
That's
Gives you
right.
some protection, certainly, yeah.
I think this would have to be carefully discussed.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this is just sort of a little heads up.
Okay. So we'll move on to policy and strategy
So
committee.
a few items there. Mayor.
Yes, there will be.
Yes.
Mayor, I'd move that council adopt the affordable, gentle density housing grant policy
As amended,
as amended.
I'll second that.
Second that by Council Carver. All those in favor signify aye. Opposed, the motion is carried.
As well, we have an amended grants to organizations policy that I'd recommend to council to approve or adopt.
Okay. Seconder for
I'll
that.
second it again.
Thank you, Councillor Carver. All those in favor signify aye. Opposed,
How do we want to handle the next one?
the motion is carried.
Volunteer of the year. Mayor, would you like a motion on,
Yeah.
about that right now?
Sure.
Mayor and council, Mayor, to let you know, council has decided to name David Henniger as the Town of Mahone Bay Volunteer of the Year. As everyone knows, David's our Father Christmas and does many other things for the town as well. So I'd move the council formally name David Henniger as the Volunteer of the Year for 2026.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Wilson, thank you. All right, well, all those in favor? All right.
Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho is right. Say ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, with that.
Mayor, there's another motion there that isn't in yellow. I don't know whether it's important or not, because I wasn't at this meeting, but it's that the committee directs staff to draft a letter for the mayor's signature in response to Rhiannon Visser's letter. Item 3.4.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not highlighted, so I know
Oh, I
it's kind of odd that the committee directs staff, I think that was kind of like, because it is policy and strategy, and the council's already there. But at the same time, you could always do that again now.
okay,
Any other committee would recommend the council, obviously, that we consider.
So I recommend to ourselves. I'll make that motion.
okay, seconder. Councillor Boone, sorry. All right, all those in favor signify aye. Opposed, the motion is carried.
Did we get I'm sorry, I was,
The Ben Jackson.
yeah, we got, yeah.
Okay.
No, we didn't do that.
No, we didn't. Okay, and there's one more motion, recommendation. Counselor Carver.
So I'll move that council appoint Ben Jackson to the Planning Advisory Committee for a term ending in December 2026.
Seconder, Counselor Feeney. Okay, thank you. All those in favor signify aye. Opposed? The motion is carried.
Oh, excuse me.
Welcome, Ben. Let's go
Ooh, lots of
on.
motions in that meeting.
That was a long meeting, remember?
I know.
It was a very long meeting. Yeah. Not as
Oh, no, that
long
was the
as
budget.
our last budget meeting.
No,
though.
that wins, that one.
Okay, so we are now to new business and that we have no new business and can we check for questions and on if there are any questions?
We do up the grants to organizations. Oh, that's best, yes.
So I don't have any questions. Looks like we have 10 watching, although one of those is Kelly, so that juiced their stats a bit.
Probably Kim is the
There you
other.
go.
Kim-
Kim Boodley.
Well, Kim's always on there. but-
There you go.
Kelly this time, so, yeah, we
Okay.
Can someone make a motion to go into closed session? MGA 22-2A acquisition, sale, lease, and security of municipal property. And 12.2 MGA 22-2E contract negotiations. And I don't know what legal is, but we approved that on the,
Personnel.
for personnel. And someone like to make that motion? Counselor Feeney, second by Counselor Boone. Thank you. All those in favor signify aye. The motion is carried. We will now go into closed session.